Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer. Today, we are getting into a concept that honestly completely flips how we think about wealth. If you have ever felt totally exhausted by the modern grind, or kind of like you're doing absolutely everything right but still aren't feeling the rewards, well, you are in the exact right place. We're going to look at the geometry of how we construct our lives, and as you'll see, it's pretty amazing what happens when we replace some outdated math with a completely new formula for freedom.
Okay, let's dive into this. What makes someone middle class? Seriously, take a second and think about your own answer. If someone just walked up and asked you to define it, what immediately pops into your head? For most of our lives, we've basically been conditioned to answer this with a very specific, very rigid set of numbers. We picture a certain type of house, a certain type of car sitting in the driveway, or a really specific salary range. We've been handed this measuring stick for success. But for a whole lot of people, that measuring stick is actually the root of the problem.
You see, traditional financial markers have basically always boiled down to two things: hitting specific income brackets and accumulating physical stuff. You know the routine. You get the big promotion, you take on the heavy weight of a new tax bracket, you buy a massive television, you upgrade the couch, the whole shebang. But here is the massive issue with this old math. It completely fails to fix exhaustion. You can hit absolutely every single one of those income brackets and fill your house with the absolute best physical stuff, and guess what? You can still wake up totally burned out. These traditional markers only measure what you have. They completely ignore how much of your actual life you had to give up to get it.
Now, what's really interesting about this is the stark contrast between the old mindset and the new one. We're moving away from the old definition, climbing this rigid vertical ladder of income brackets. Instead, we're shifting toward a new definition: optionality. It's about opening lateral doors in your life. Wealth isn't just about that vertical climb up a corporate ladder anymore. It's about the lateral space you can create. We're essentially tossing out a spreadsheet of income brackets and replacing it with a completely new variable. And it's a variable that actually solves for human happiness, rather than just mindless consumer spending.
So how exactly do we define this? Well, optionality is simply the ability to say no to a job or a lifestyle that just isn't working for you. It's such a fascinating way to look at things. Being middle class, or being truly wealthy for that matter, shouldn't be defined by whether or not you land in a 24% or 32% tax bracket. It should be defined by your power of refusal. Do you have the structural stability in your life to look at a toxic work environment or an insanely exhausting schedule and simply say no? Because if you can't say no, your income bracket doesn't really matter. You don't actually own your life. Optionality is literally the ultimate metric of freedom.
Which brings us to this incredibly cool concept at the core of all this: the hidden math of buying back your Tuesdays. Why Tuesdays? Well, think about it. Tuesday is arguably the most entrenched, ordinary, downright mundane day of the traditional workweek. It's the absolute dead center of the modern grind. If you can manage to buy back your Tuesday, you have fundamentally hacked the system. Buying back a Tuesday becomes the ultimate, tangible objective of this new mathematical life model. It's not about buying a flashy boat you only use on a couple of weekends. It's about buying back a completely random Tuesday afternoon.
Let's move to and see how this builds, because how do we actually pull this off, right? It breaks down into three clear steps. Step one is to accumulate margin. This means creating actual breathing room in your finances and your schedule so you aren't maxed out to the absolute limit. Once you have that breathing room, you move to step two: gain optionality. That margin, it gives you leverage. It gives you the power to say no. And that leads directly to step three: buy back Tuesday. You use that hard-won optionality to literally reclaim your time from the system. It's a chain reaction. Margin creates optionality, and optionality buys back your time.
So the crucial point is the ability to say no to a job or lifestyle that isn't working. True leverage isn't about having $1 million sitting in the bank just so you can brag about it. True leverage is having exactly enough margin so that when a situation, a client, or a lifestyle begins to just drain your soul, you can walk away without your entire world collapsing. Actually, scratch that. It's more than leverage. That single word, no, is quite literally the ultimate luxury good in the modern economy.
When we pull back and look at the whole picture, what we're looking at is a total reframe of human effort. On one side, you have a life dedicated to the accumulation of stuff and dragging around the heavy weight of maintaining it all. On the other side, a life dedicated to the acquisition of time and margin. Because here's the truth: stuff depreciates, stuff requires maintenance, stuff traps you in that endless cycle of needing to maintain those high income brackets we were talking about earlier. But time and margin, they actually compound. They give you peace, they wipe out your exhaustion, and at the end of the day, they are the only things that let you actually enjoy the life you're working so hard to build.
I want to leave you with a final thought here, one that completely flips the script on how we evaluate our own success. Don't look at your bank account, and don't look at the cars in your garage. Look at your calendar. If you calculated your wealth in Tuesdays,
in the amount of unencumbered, fully optional time you possess, how rich are you right now? It's a pretty challenging question, I know, but it's exactly the kind of question that can help you redesign your life for true freedom. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Hey, I hope you start buying back those Tuesdays.